know those items? Well, I'm going to teach you another skill, I guess, a worksheet really, that I've used at almost every place I've ever worked effectively. And it's the idea of a menu engineering worksheet. And I'm going to do one for you, and then you'll be expected to do one on your own with some sort of diagnoses on what you would do if you were in this situation. So we're going to go through the actual calculations part first. By the way, this could be used for any menu, meaning I'm using it here for the draft beer menu of a craft beer bar, but it could be used for any restaurant. You know what I mean? The actual food the food menu there as well. But it could be used well beyond the hospitality industry, though it was created for the hospitality industry. Any property or place, any retail space that sells a menu of items, right? Items that are relatively similar, but we want to know which ones to work with and how to maximize our revenue and our profit when dealing with that. So in the last piece, I talked about the idea of profit, right? Menu contribution, like I said before, a beverage cost percentage, the price itself. Now we're going to compare that to popularity. There are two different ways to look at it. So we'll learn some new vocabulary along the way as well. You see here, percentage, that actually stands for menu mix percentage. A menu mix, you might have heard it in marketing or another class, a business class. A menu mix basically just represents the percentage of popularity of any given item. Let's take a look. You see this number sold. By the way, all you need to do in order to do a menu engineering sheet is have these three pieces of information. So we're looking at past events here. I have to know what my menu items are and how much I sold of each item. I have to know how much it cost me per portion, and I have to know how much I'm selling it for on the menu itself. With those three items, I can do the rest. So I think if I just went down here, I'm assuming that you're fairly handy with Excel. If not, watch me. So I just did a click and drag, and I went up here, and I'm just doing a sum total. So we know that we are in a total over this time period, the bar sold 1,849 drafts. Great. Now, I just want to know how popular each of these items were. So I would go up into this area, start with an equal, and just take each line item and divide it by this total. See how I do that? And so in this case, the Kentucky Brunch brand stout, 7% of all the drafts sold were these, the Kentucky Brunch brand stout. I want to make easy work of it. So take a look what I'm doing here in the address bar. If I am ever doing a calculation and everything is divided by the same denominator, right? We're taking each of these line items and we're dividing it by the total here. If I know that to be true, and I simply slip a $ between the letter and the number of the second cell, in this case B16, I can, you see where it goes from a sort of a cross to a plus, white cross to a plus. When it gets to that plus, I just drag it down, and that does the calculation all the way down for me. So we see that some things are as low as 4.3%. The Saison Bernice, not very popular, to something here like the Mexican Brunch Porter, very popular. 12.2% of all the beer sold happened to be that beer itself. And then the item cost, I know, I calculated that out like we did with the keg pricing in the last PowerPoint, how much each portion cost me, and I'm pretty confident that there's an accuracy there. And the menu price part is the easiest part, right? Then remember, I taught you how to do item cost percentage, right? When we wanted to know what the beverage cost of each item was, meaning what percent of the total revenue goes back to pay for the beer itself, the portion of beer itself. And let's go ahead and do that. And if you remember that formula, it was quite easy. It was just how much you pay for it divided by how much they pay for it, right? The item cost divided by the menu price. And if we take a look at that, we know that, again, the Kentucky Brunch brand stout ran a item cost percentage of 17%. Now, with this one, because it's a horizontal calculation, I don't even have to put that $ in there. I can just drag it all the way down. And this tells me what all the different cost percentages of the different products are. Remember, we said that draft beer on average has a cost percentage of 20%, meaning 20 cents out of every dollar in revenue goes to pay for the beer itself. We see that some of these things are well below 20, others are well above 20. But if you remember, again, on the last on the last PowerPoint, we talked about the idea that we don't simply just take everything and divide by 20% and say that's our price, right? We know our customers, so we know that with some things we have to lower the price a little bit, lower than it should be in order to get the guest to buy it. And with other things, we feel like the guest is going to buy it anyway, so we can raise the price, so we can overcharge on some things. So on average, our item cost percentage should be 20, but we know that some will be above and some will be below. It's up to us to tweak that properly. And then we have the item contribution margin. Do you remember the formula for contribution margin was the price we sell it for minus how much it cost us, right? So it's just a division, a subtraction as opposed to a division of the same formula that we used to find cost percentage. So how much do I charge for that stout? $7. How much do I pay for that stout? $1.20. So the item contribution margin, meaning every time I sell one Kentucky Brunch brand stout, I get to keep $5.80 after I pay for the beer itself. Now again, that $5.80 goes to pay for all sorts of other stuff. But the beer is already paid for, right? The product cost is already paid for. Now I can put that towards staffing and insurance and mortgage and utilities and insurance. I guess I said that. I'm always concerned about that. And again, drag it down. Boom. So now I know for each beer on the menu, right? I know how many I sold. I know what percentage of the total that was. I know how much it cost me, and I taught you how to do that on the last one. I priced it at $7, and that means that my item cost percentage is 17%. Out of every dollar I get for this stout, 17 cents of that dollar goes back to pay for the stout, and that means that I have $5.80 left overall. Now, for these next 1, 2, 3, all I'm doing is extrapolating the information that I've already done with the food cost. Now remember, it was the item food cost before. Now it is the menu food cost, right? The item food cost over here, and now it's the menu food cost. I'm just saying that if it cost me $1.21 to produce one stout, then how much would it be to produce all the stouts? In this case, 129 of them. Make sense? All I'm doing is taking that same that same idea and I'm extrapolating it to the largest amount. If if it's $1.20 to make one stout, how much did it cost me to make all the stouts? In this case, 129. And this is saying that in this case, I spent $154.80 on the product itself for stout, right? So I'm extrapolating it. It's not just how much it costs for one. I'm extrapolating it based on the popularity of that item as well, how much I sold of each. And I would just drag that down again. And then I would see that I spend a lot more on, obviously, the second stout than I do on the first. First of all, because it cost more per, but also I sold significantly more of the second one than I did of the first one. And then I do the same thing with the menu revenue, right? We know, remember from the last time I said revenue was nothing more than price times volume? Well, in this case, it is price with the stout, $7 times volume, 129 of them. So how much did I make in revenue selling the stouts? A total of $903. And I do that for each item again, all the way down. And then my final extrapolation, the menu contribution margin. When I say the menu contribution margin as opposed to the item contribution margin, I'm saying for all the items sold during a time period. And in this case, we see that for that stout, the item contribution margin was $5.80. Remember, after I paid for the beer, I have $5.80 left. I multiply that by all the stouts I sold, $129, and my contribution margin is, after I paid for the stout, I have $748.20 left in contribution margin. My margin is that amount that I have left over after I pay for the product cost itself. And again, I can just drag it down like I've done before. Now I get to categorize things after I do 2 more calculations, and let's go ahead and do those. So far, I have done the top portion here. There are 2 more calculations I have to do real quick. First of all, you see how I have my menu contribution margin. I want to know in total how much contribution margin was created by all these sales. That's a quick addition, right? I just have to come to a total down here, and there's my total right there. Let me bold it for you. Just like, I'm going to bold this over here also. So my average contribution margin is really quite simple, theoretically, in the fact that, let's put it down here right where it says average contribution margin. All I'm doing is taking my entire contribution margin, right, of $11,794.09, and I'm dividing that by all the, not the items, but all the beers I sold in total. In this case, 1,849 beers. So if 1,849 beers produced over $11,000 in contribution margin, my average contribution margin would be the total divided by the number, in this case, just what I said. So my average contribution margin is $6.38. Let's do Q factor again. I just want to go back and make sure you understand that the average contribution margin is, remember, each of these items has a item contribution margin, right? And this is the average contribution margin after we take a look at the idea of extrapolating it to all that have been sold, right? I take my entire contribution margin, everything I had left over after I paid for the product itself, and divided by the number of products I sold, in this case there. So on average, every time I sell a beer, I'm making a contribution margin of $6.38. The next thing is something called Q factor. We put Q factor towards everything. Basically, it is saying what is the average popularity of a thing. And it is a statistical formula that was created by some people and has nothing to do with the hospitality industry or beer or craft beer or anything. But it is said that you can take the average popularity of anything if, take a look down here, if you take the number of items on the menu, divide by 100, and I put that in parentheses, and multiply that by 0.70. The only thing that changes is the number of items. The 100 is a constant, and the 0.70 is a constant at all. So in this case, my Q factor for this, how many items are on my menu? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm taking, let me do my equals and my parentheses, 11 divided by 100, and then I'm multiplying that times 0.70 or 70%. And that's telling me that the average popularity of something, or the, I shouldn't say the average, but we'll call it average. The average popularity of something, the Q factor of something with 11 choices on a menu is 7.7%. So let's think about that as well. So we have 2 new pieces of information here, right? That our average contribution margin is $6.38, and our average Q factor is 7.7%. We're going to use that information to, and I'm moving myself up here, to start categorizing some things. So the first thing I'm categorizing is my, you see where it says CM up here, my contribution margin category. Next to it's going to be my menu mix category. Right from the start, we have number sold, my menu mix from a percentage standpoint, the item cost, how much it cost me to purchase it, the item price, how much I sold it to the customer for, my item cost percentage, what percent of the guest's price went to pay for the product itself, the item contribution margin, every time I sell one of these things, how much do I have left over to pay for other items, the menu food cost in this case, or the menu cost, means I know how much it cost me to create or have one portion of this beer. I multiply that by all the beers I sold, and I do the same thing for my menu revenue and my menu contribution margin. All right. So now I'm going to classify each individual item by its contribution margin. We know that my average contribution margin is $6.38. Well, let's take a look at the individual item contribution margins then. This is what I sometimes do is, I'm going to scoot myself over again, and I use this highlighter. To, it's just easier for me to keep track of what I'm doing. So I know that my average contribution margin is $6.38. Well, for this first one, $5.80 is lower than $6.38. So I'm going to give that a low. And I'm going to go back and forth, high, low for each one of them. I'll be right back when that's done. And you can see that compared to $6.38, some of these are lower and some of these are higher. Easy enough. I really do the same thing with my menu mix category. I know that my average menu mix is that 7.7. And what I do now is I go back down here. I take a look at those menu mix items. I'm going to highlight those so I can keep track of them easily. And I'm going to go through each of my individual items and compare it to 7.7. The stout, for instance, came up at 7. I know that the average is 7.7, so that's in fact a low. Again, I'll be back when I have those all done for you. Again, I simply compared my average contribution margin to each individual draft's contribution margin, and I put either high or low here. So now you see that we have like different categories being put in place. I'm simply going to finish up here by telling you what categories these fit into, and then I will make one more PowerPoint where we'll talk about what each of those means and what we would do if we find those on our menu. If we have something that has a low, in this case, the stout has a low contribution margin and a low menu mix, meaning it's low in profitability and it's low in popularity. Not only does nobody like it or nobody purchases it, but also when somebody does purchase it, I don't make a lot of money. The margin between how much I charge for it and how much I paid for it is slim. So in this case, we call that a DOG, a DOG. And then we have 3 sets here that are both high in contribution margin and high in menu mix or popularity. When something is both high in contribution margin, I make money every time I sell it, and high in popularity, a lot of people like it, I call that a star, right? It's important for me to have those on the menu for sure. They're the things that I like to highlight perhaps. And then I have something that has a low contribution margin but a high menu mix, meaning it's not very profitable, but it is very popular. I call that a plow horse. And then we got a dog. Now we have something that is high in contribution margin but low in popularity. Meaning I could make a lot of money on this thing if I could just get people to buy it, right? High contribution margin, low popularity. I call that one a puzzle. And the rest we've done before. I'll just clean those up and I'll come right back and we'll talk a little bit. All right, so they're all categorized now, right from the top to the bottom. Some are dogs, stars, plow horses, and puzzles. And we can see that from this piece based on the popularity and the profitability. But one thing I do want to show you as well is that some things are either high stars or low stars as well, or high dogs and low dogs, or plow horses and puzzles, because I want to know how far did in this case, the popularity deviate from the average, right? Some things were, gosh, like the stout was 7%. It was just a little bit lower than average. But then you have something down here like the Saison Bernice, and that is way lower than average. So I would keep these things in mind when I'm figuring out what to do with these different beers. Not only whether or not they are a dog or a star or a plow horse, but how much of a dog or a plow horse or star they might be. So we're going to keep both these things in mind when we're talking about dogs and stars and plow horses. All right. See you in the next video.